So, there's this movie series that you may have heard of called The Matrix. And a full 20 years after the ending of the original trilogy, they're coming out with a new one.
What?
It's called The Matrix
Resurrections.
And it's possible that maybe you didn't see the original series. Maybe you weren't alive when the original series was coming out, which, wow. Or maybe you just need a little refresher. If so, this video is for you. My name is Kyrie. This is Flights of Fantasy. The Matrix starts off in a sea of foreign-looking green code. We then see this big building that is surrounded by SWAT and all sorts of other military personnel. They rush into this room where they surround the criminal, a woman. A squad car of mysterious agents arrive on the scene, and they tell off a mouthy lieutenant that the people that he sent in to capture this woman are most likely already dead. And then we see a scene of just that, this super cool lady just destroying these guys. She has to find another exit before those agents hunt her down. After some running and shooting, she does just that. She finds a payphone and disappears right as a truck plows into the payphone. We see Tom Anderson, a pencil pusher by day and hacker man Neo by night. We catch him sleeping as he's running programs to try to find Morpheus, an international hacker criminal. He wakes up just as his computer starts writing him weird messages. The Matrix has him. Follow the White Rabbit. It even predicts when somebody knocks at his door. But fortunately, it's just one of his clients, here to pick up some illegal software or other. After seeing a White Rabbit tattoo on his client's girlfriend's shoulder, Neo follows them to a dimly lit nightclub where he's approached by the woman that we saw earlier. This is Trinity. She tells Neo that he's in danger, that they are watching him, and that she knows that he's been looking for Morpheus. Neo wakes up from this dream and he's chewed out by his boss at work for being late and not caring about the company, blah blah. At his cubicle, he gets this mysterious package. It's a phone. Except when he opens the package, the phone immediately starts ringing, and Morpheus is on the other side. Morpheus is going to guide him out of the office because they are here for him. The agents from earlier have entered the office and are looking for Neo. But ultimately, the fear of falling off the building to his death stops Neo from completing all of Morpheus's instructions, and he's taken into custody. The agents interrogate him, try to scare him by saying they know all about his nightly activities. And then, in a very mind-bendy scene, they take away his mouth and insert this robot bug into his belly button. But Neo wakes up and it was just a nightmare. Right? Wrong. Morpheus calls him up at his home and tells him that he believes that he is the one and that he wants to meet up. Trinity and a couple of other intimidating-looking characters pick him up in a car and use this machine to remove the bug that has been crawling inside of his body. That whole thing was real somehow. He finally meets Morpheus, who offers to tell him everything that he wants to know about the Matrix. But first, Neo has a choice. If Neo takes the red pill, he'll see how far the rabbit hole goes and will learn the truth about everything, and there's no going back. With the blue pill, though, he forgets any of this ever happened. It was just a bad dream. Of course, Neo takes the red pill. After some more mind-bendy visuals, Neo wakes up and climbs out of this gooey egg-looking thing covered in wires. And he's not alone. He is just one egg in a sea of millions of eggs. He's discarded in the world's worst water slide and is picked up by a giant claw machine, or hover ship. There, Morpheus welcomes him to the real world.
Welcome to the real world.
There's a medical montage of them rebuilding his muscles because he's never actually used them. And eventually, after all of that, Morpheus introduces him to the crew of the ship. The ship is called the Nebuchadnezzar. They plug Neo into one of the chairs on the deck of the ship, and there, in a white void, Morpheus tells him the true nature of the Matrix. The 1999 world that Neo knows is a lie. The full story has been kind of lost to time, but we get the gist of it. Humanity was excited to unveil this new AI that spawned a race of robots, and they were solar powered, and of course humanity lost control of the AI, so humanity thought, I know how we can kill the robots, we can just torch the sun. Lacking a power source, the robots turned to humanity itself. So the machines made these fields where human beings could be grown and harvested to turn into Duracell. I mean, nondescript batteries for the machines. And the Matrix is simply a mental prison that we can all exist in and live out our happy lives while we're providing energy to the machines. Neo, like any reasonable person, doesn't take this very well.
I don't believe it. It's not possible.
When he wakes up, Morpheus apologizes and tells him that after a certain age, they don't free people from the Matrix. He believes that Neo is the One, a reincarnation of somebody who was able to free the minds of the first free humans and manipulate the code of the Matrix itself. And the One is also somebody that the Oracle has predicted will end the Matrix, end the war between machines and humans, and free mankind once and for all. Neo gets to know Tank, who is the operator for this ship. The operator is basically in charge of being able to see what's going on in the Matrix with a bird's eye view. And Tank doesn't have any of those weird wire holes. Well, it's because he was born free and naturally in Zion, the last free city of humanity, located way underground near the Earth's core. For training, Neo is plugged into a chair and Tank downloads, for example, jujitsu into his brain as easily as one might download a computer game. Morpheus spars with Neo inside the Matrix in a training program. He explains that the Matrix, like a computer, has rules that can be bent or broken. Being strong or fast in the Matrix has nothing to do with your actual muscles. It's all inside your head. He takes Neo into a new test, the jump program, because once you free your mind, you're going to be able to do really cool superhuman stunts. And he fails the jump test. So it's a little bit discouraging for everybody involved. But we also learn an important rule about the Matrix in this test. So what happens in the Matrix to you also happens to you in real life. If you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. In another program, Morpheus explains that everybody still plugged into the Matrix is an enemy. Agents themselves are programs that are designed to hunt down people who have been unplugged from the Matrix and destroy them. The training program is interrupted. Sentinels, aka Squiddies, are coming towards the ship. Agents hunt down the freed people's minds, Sentinels hunt down the freed people's bodies. Shuts down all machines within a certain radius, and it's their only weapon to use against Sentinels. Cypher, a member of the crew, has a creepy little crush on Trinity, and also the guy who was on the phone with her in the very first scene, is working late on a computer one night when Neo kind of spooks him. Together they share some homebrewed liquor, and Cypher expresses how he wishes that he had picked the blue pill, because this current reality sucks. And after Neo wishes him goodnight, we see why he's really at the computer. Inside the Matrix, he has a meeting with one of the agents that we saw from earlier. And recently he's turned informant to the agents inside the Matrix because he wants to go back. He wants to be plugged back in. In order to get this, the agents want him to give them the Zion mainframe codes.
Access codes to the Zion mainframe.
And effectively wipe out all of free humanity. Cypher doesn't have those codes, but he can give them somebody who does have the codes. Morpheus. Anyway, it's time for Neo to meet the Oracle, the one who predicted the prophecy and a lady who's been with humanity's resistance since the beginning. Although she's a cool lady, she's got some bad news for Neo. He's not the one, and she knows that he knows that. The Oracle also predicts something. Morpheus is going to try to give his life to save Neo. So Neo's going to have a choice. Morpheus's life or his own. One of them is going to die. Neo tries to tell Morpheus what she said, but Morpheus says that what she said is for Neo alone. The crew meets up at this one decrepit building and they're about to leave. But on their way up the stairs of this building, Neo sees a black cat go by. And then a second later, he sees a cat that's really similar. Actually, it's kind of identical. Deja vu in the Matrix is not just deja vu. It's a glitch in the Matrix, and it means that the agents have changed something. Outside of the building, agents have cut the power line so that way Tank can't get them out through the landline. They also, unfortunately, find out what the agents have changed. They have blocked all of the windows and exits with bricks, so there's no way out. One of the crew, Mouse, makes a valiant stand with a couple of machine guns downstairs, but is ultimately gunned down. The rest of the crew use schematics sent by Tank to scale down the inner walls of the building. But a convenient sneeze from Cypher alerts the agents and the SWAT team that they have with them of their location. An agent grabs Neo through the wall, and Morpheus, above him, smashes through the wall and starts fighting the agent to let the others get to safety. Cypher makes it out of the Matrix first, and as Tank is about to get the others out of the Matrix, Cypher shoots him with this lightning gun. Dozer, Tank's brother, is the next person to be lightninged. When Trinity calls back, it's Cypher who picks up the phone, and he's also being really creepy with her real-life body. He gives this creepy little monologue and gloats a little bit, and then systematically, he pulls the plug out of each of the real-life bodies of the crew, one by one. Because they haven't been properly exported, they instantly die. Cypher is about to pull the plug on Neo when Tank, somehow alive, shoots him with his own lightning gun. The call goes dead. When the phone rings again, it's Tank, and both she and Neo are able to get out of the Matrix. But Team Nebuchadnezzar has suffered a huge loss. There are only 3 members either not dead or captured at this point. Meanwhile, Agent Smith monologues to Morpheus, and he's basically starting this thing where he's hacking into Morpheus's mind. It's only a matter of time before he will do whatever they ask of him, including give them the Zion codes. Tank knows this and explains it to Neo and Trinity. It looks like they have no choice but to unplug Morpheus before he can give up the rest of humanity. But Neo decides it's time to take a stand.
I believe I can bring him back.
Trinity and Tank try to stop him, but Neo tells them what the Oracle told him. He's not the one, and he's not going to let Morpheus die for this fake belief that he is the one. Trinity tells Neo that he's wrong, that he is definitely the one. Although when Neo asks, she won't say why exactly. So anyway, they go into the Matrix to get suited up with a bunch of weapons, and then they go to the building that they are keeping Morpheus in. In this cool action sequence of Neo and Trinity working their way through a small military force, basically. They steal a helicopter and shoot up the room that Morpheus is being held in. And we see why agents are so hard to kill in this sequence. When agents die, it's only their host or their vessel NPC that really dies. They can simply possess another NPC and come right back. So in a way, they're impossible to kill. So Neo and Trinity rescue Morpheus. When they get to safety, Morpheus tells Neo that the Oracle told him what he needed to hear, not necessarily what was true. Basically, Neo needs to believe that he's the one, not just know it. Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo find the phone booth that is their exit. Morpheus gets out. Alone, Trinity is about to tell Neo what the Oracle told her and why she's so sure that he is the one, but Agent Smith shows up. Trinity answers and gets out of the Matrix right as Agent Smith shoots the phone that she's on and destroys it. Neo is alone with him in the subway with no way out. They fight and they shoot, and there's a lot of 360 action scenes going on. But Neo is going toe-to-toe with an agent, which has never happened before. He's giving the agent a run for his money. On the ship, the proximity alarm goes off. They have 5 minutes until the Sentinels are there to destroy them all. Neo has to get out of the Matrix before them, otherwise the EMP is going to shut off all the electronics and basically kill him. Agents chase Neo through the city, and he makes it to this apartment where the exit is supposed to be. He can hear the phone ringing through the door, but when he opens the apartment door, Agent Smith is on the other side and shoots him multiple times in the chest. On the ship in real life, his body flatlines. He's gone. Sentinels are laser beaming through the hull of the ship and are this close to making it to the deck of the ship where they can destroy everybody there. Trinity leans down to Neo's body in real life and tells him that the Oracle told her that she would fall in love with the person who is the one.
The Oracle told me that I would fall in love and that the man that I loved would be the one.
So Trinity tells him that that's how she knows that he is the one, so he can't be dead yet. She kisses him and his heart monitor shoots back up. He's alive!
What?
And he rises in the Matrix. Neo seems to come into his power. He knows he's the one. He can now see the code of the Matrix clearly, and he fights off Agent Smith easily. And then he jumps into Agent Smith's body and makes him explode. Neo is literally flexing on the Matrix and these agents right now. Neo makes it to the phone and out of the Matrix right as the Sentinels are about to destroy his body and right as Trinity trips the EMP. The movie ends with Neo sending this cool message to the Matrix itself, Agent Smith, the viewer, who knows? But that's the Matrix. Ooh, timeout. I wanted to take a little bit of time to explain the first Matrix and spend a little bit more time on that than the others. That way you would understand the rules of the world and the stakes and all the important stuff. So buckle up, because we are speed running the rest of this series. The Matrix Reloaded starts with another actiony cold open scene, with Trinity looking great in latex. Yes, queen work. She jumps out of skyscraper window mid-firefight with an agent when one of his bullets hits her and she crashes to the ground. Psych! Neo wakes up from this dream. Apparently he's been having a lot like them. By the way, Neo and Trinity are an item now, which is great. The Nebuchadnezzar has a new operator, Link. But aside from him, they have not filled the position of any of the crew members who died in the previous movie. This skeleton Neber crew jumps into the Matrix for a meeting with a couple of other captains. The problem? Well, 250,000 Sentinels, the Squiddies, you remember, are digging down to Zion. Everybody's worried about this, yes, and even worse, they can't find the Oracle, who they hope will have answers for them on how to avoid this extinction event. But Morpheus is not worried about this threat, because he thinks that this is a desperate move from the machines, and he believes that the prophecy, the one where Neo is supposed to end the machine war and free humanity, is going to come true very soon. Meanwhile, surprise, Agent Smith, or former Agent Smith, is at the door of the meeting place of the captains. He asks the doorman to give Neo a gift.
I'm looking for Neo.
Never heard of him.
I have something for him. A gift.
And he asks him to also deliver a message, that Neo set him free. The doorman does so, Neo's confused, but he senses a disturbance in the Matrix, and he asks everybody to get the heck out. With good timing, too, because 3 unrelated agents burst through the door, but Neo manages to fight these guys off really easily. He's coming to his own with these powers of the One. After beating them, Neo flies off to the Oracle's apartment just to see if she's home, when, double surprise, there are 2 Smiths? The Neber and all other captains are called back to Zion. Morpheus gets 1 ship to stay back, just in case the Oracle tries to make contact with them. And that really pisses off Commander Locke. Morpheus and Locke already have some history where Locke is with Morpheus' ex, Captain Niobe, and it's implied that Morpheus broke up with her after he first met with the Oracle, although we don't exactly know what the Oracle said to him that changed his perspective. It just happened. Locke himself doesn't believe in the Oracle, or the One, or the prophecy, and he wants to punish Morpheus for disobeying his orders. But unfortunately, he can't do anything without the Council's approval. And Morpheus knows, with some sassy one-liners, that he's a favorite of the Council, and the Council's not going to do anything against him. So Locke is out of luck. Speaking of not getting lucky, Trinity and Neo are having issues where they just want to get frisky, but they keep being interrupted by like a fanboy or, you know, a casual sea of Neo worshippers. Link is also having issues, but that's primarily because he's on Team Neber now. He is the brother-in-law to the original operator Tank and Dozer, so he married their sister. Apparently Tank has died in between movies for no specific reason, although presumably because of the lightning gun or maybe pay negotiations for the actor falling through, who knows. Anyway, there's this big town hall type meeting in this big cave where Morpheus gives a motivational speech and then they rave. Meanwhile in the Matrix, a couple of the guys from the ship that didn't go back are desperately racing towards a phone. One of them gets out and the other is intercepted by Smith, who does this weird thing where he sticks his hand inside the guy's chest and assimilates him into a copy of himself. Later, some guys find Trinity and Neo and give them a hard drive with a message from the Oracle. And Smith is now inhabiting the body of the guy that he assimilated. This guy's name is Bane, but we can call him a Smippet, because he's a Smith puppet. Neo plugs into the Matrix and meets a guy named Seraph, who says that he can take Neo to see the Oracle. Seraph apologizes and then begins to fight Neo. So they fight a little bit, and when it's clear that Neo is holding his own and maybe even winning, Seraph calls off the fight and says that he just wanted to test Neo, because you don't really know someone until you fight them, which, okay. Seraph uses a key on the front door of the building that they're in, and they step into this hallway where Link can't see them anymore. They entered a back door, which is programmer access to the Matrix. In the hallway of doors, he opens a door that leads to the Oracle. Neo and the Oracle's conversation gets a little bit abstract and can be confusing. But basically, Neo says that the Oracle is a program, and so is Seraph. So Neo has no way of knowing whether or not he can trust the Oracle. And the Oracle's like, yeah. And then they start talking about the invisible programs of the Matrix and how when they're running smoothly, you don't even notice that they're there. Like the program that controls the birds or moves trees in the wind, that kind of thing. And how when a program is either outdated or broken in some way, they have 2 choices. One is to go back to the source like they're supposed to and be deleted. And the second is to go into exile. The Oracle tells Neo that he needs to go to the source, which is the machine mainframe. They talk about Neo's dream for a little bit, and she tells him that the choice that he has to make on whether to save her or not has already been made, and that he can see the future too now, but only with the choices that he understands why he made them. So he can't see what happens to Trinity because he doesn't understand why he made a choice. Like I said, this conversation gets abstract. Bonus pressure. If Neo doesn't figure out why he made this choice, Zion will fall. Wow. Seraph gives the Oracle the 5-minute warning where they gotta go, and before she leaves, she tells Neo that in order to get to the source, he needs to find somebody called the Keymaker, who's being held captive by a big bad program called the Marrow. It's hard for me to pronounce that, so we're just gonna call him the Marrow. So Neo has to be at this one specific place at this one specific time to meet Marrow and then possibly get the Keymaker so that way he can possibly make the right choice to save Trinity. She leaves, and guess who shows up after her? Smith. So Smith is here, and he talks to Neo about how Neo took away his purpose and how he knows he should have gone back to the source and been deleted, but he felt compelled to stay here and be a little stinker. Time out. I know I said I was going to stick with the plot, but when these characters keep having these abstract, philosophical monologues at each other, I feel like it's important to understand what the heck they're saying so that we know what's going on in the plot. So Smith is mad at Neo because Neo took away his purpose, literally destroyed his status as an agent. And Smith argues that this happened for a purpose. He's arguing for determinism / fate here. But what's funny is that when he came back to life somehow, this was determined by his own free will. His new purpose of destroying Neo and destroying Zion was of his own free will. Anyway, Neo fights a bunch of Smiths, and they are pouring in. There's an abundance of Smiths. And eventually Neo ends up just flying away because he can't handle all of the Smiths. Meanwhile at Zion, the council is like, yes, Commander Locke, we are absolutely under this huge threat. Please do whatever you need to do to keep us safe. Take whatever resource you need. Except we're gonna need like 1, maybe 2 captains and their crews and their ships to go after the Nebuchadnezzar. Make sure they're okay, make sure they don't need backup or anything. Any volunteers? And there are, in fact, 2 volunteers. One is Captain Soren, and the other one is Captain Niobe, who gives a sassy one-liner to Commander Locke, breaks up with them, and then literally goes back to Morpheus. The Nebu crew arrives at this fancy hotel where they meet this French Bond villain type character, Marrow. The conversation with him basically boils down the entire philosophy of this movie, where it's like, machines are team fate / determinism. And Morpheus is like, no, humans are team free will. And also Marrow drugs a random NPC lady with an aphrodisiac to show the cause and effect thing or illustrate his point or something. And then he tells them to leave. Except plot twist, his wife Persephone is like, I can take you guys to the Keymaker. But before she does that, she's like, I want to make out with Neo. Because she sees the love that Trinity and Neo have, and she wants something like that, or, you know, definitely not to make Trinity jealous, and, what is this, Mean Girls? Whatever, Neo does it, Persephone takes them to the Keymaker. On their way out, however, they are intercepted by Marrow and his crew of naughty bad programs. Persephone gives a sassy one-liner and tells Marrow off and then saunters away, and we never see her again. And then the 2 crews sit down and talk about their feelings, and they work things out in a mature, sophisticated, emotionally intelligent way. Just kidding, they fight. Or rather, Neo fights the entirety of Marrow's crew, while Morpheus and Trinity chase down the Keymaker, who ran away because he was too afraid of being put back in a cell or worse by Marrow and his crew. Neo, of course, defeats all of these programs because he is the one. Marrow does some weird stuff with the doors, and now Neo is like 500 miles away from Morpheus and Trinity. Meanwhile, with Morpheus and Trinity and the Keymaker, they're in a game of crazy taxi trying to escape these slippery, ghost, shifty programs known as the Twins. It's thought that these are earlier version of the agents, but don't worry, we have the modern, updated agents that we know, and we'll also join in this crazy, kooky car chase sequence. Neo, who ends up Superman flying in and saving Morpheus and the Keymaker last second from a giant explosion. We get a flashback to Zion where Commander Locke is like freaking out that 250,000 Sentinels are digging their way to Zion, and there's literally no way that they can stop them from doing that. Anyway, back with Team Neber, and also Captain Niobe and her crew, and Captain Soren and his crew, and the Keymaker is telling them how exactly they're going to get Neo into the source. Conveniently, they need 3 teams of people to make this work. Inside this building that has a floor that can't be accessed by elevator or stairs, there is a room. This is the room to the source. But in order to get there, they need to cut power to the building and also 27 blocks around the building. So they're going to have to blow up a power station. And also, they need another team to shut down the emergency system so that way they can go through the door without dying. That's right, audience. We are now in a bank heist movie. So we're 3 minutes out from when all this is supposed to take place. They have a total of 5 minutes to make everything happen. Except Sentinels find Captain Soren's ship. The ship is destroyed by a Sentinel bomb, which is not something we've seen before. Fortunately, Link and Trinity hear an explosion and they check up on the crews and they notice that Soren's team isn't moving or really doing anything. They know something is wrong. And this is very bad because they can't warn Neo, Morpheus, and the Keymaker because they've already hopped into that backdoor hallway. The clock strikes midnight. Captain Niobe's team takes care of the power station. Neo, Morpheus, and the Keymaker are heading to the door. Fortunately, Smith is there to keep them busy with his sassy one-liners. Thank you, Smith. Instead of waiting to watch them die, Trinity decides that she's going to go into the Matrix and take care of the emergency system herself. Meanwhile, Smith wraps up some of his sassy one-liners, and then a bunch of Smiths come out from all of the doors and they're ambushed. There's a swarm of Smiths. A swarmth, if you will. The Keymaker hides in a room. Morpheus is almost assimilated by the swarmth. There's lots of punching. And eventually the Keymaker opens the door that they're supposed to go through right as Trinity gets the emergency system offline. And speaking of Trinity, she's trying to get out of the building and get out of the Matrix, but there's an agent that's pursuing her. And we know how this turns out. Morpheus, Neo, and the Keymaker make it through the door. Unfortunately, though, the Keymaker has been hit multiple times from the last-second bullets of the swarmth. And because he's a program / a part of the robot team, he says that this was just meant to be. And then he passes away. Neo enters the door of light that he has been dreaming about, and he finds, a bureaucrat. This guy is called the Architect, and he's a program. Specifically the program that created the Matrix. As Neo asks this guy questions, all the multitudinous infinity-type screens show all of Neo's possible reactions. And the Architect drops a bomb. Neo is not the first one. There have been multiple ones, 5 the ones before Neo. Each the one marks the beginning of a cycle of the Matrix. The Architect tells Neo how the first version of the Matrix was just too perfect, way too perfect for humanity. And the second one was also just a total bust. But he eventually found the solution through this one intuitive program. They found that if humans felt like they had a choice, 99% of them would accept the system of the Matrix, which led to significantly less failure. And the intuitive program is the Oracle. If the Architect is the father of the Matrix, apparently she is the mother. In every cycle of this Matrix, there's always the One. The One is always freeing minds, and there's always been a city like Zion, the last bastion of free humanity. The Architect tells Neo that Zion will be destroyed in less than 24 hours. There's nothing he can do to stop it. Why? Because the population of Zion is too big. This is the point in the cycle where the more free humans there are, the more likely the entire system of the Matrix is to fail. Neo doesn't believe this, but the Architect tells him that, yeah, this will be the 6th time that Zion or a Zion-like city has been destroyed, and they've gotten shockingly efficient at it. He reveals that the purpose of the One is to make a choice. Every the one before Neo has chosen the same option of this choice. The first option is that the One returns to the source. They pick 23 people who are in the Matrix, 16 females and 7 males, in order to restart the population of a new free city like Zion. The One is destroyed and the cycle of the Matrix starts all over again. On the other hand, or on the other door, Neo has the choice of going back into the Matrix, not returning to the source, in order to try to save Trinity. And if he does this, there will be a catastrophic glitch in the Matrix that will cause every single human that is still connected to the Matrix to die. And Zion is dying either way. So that will effectively wipe out the human race and lead to our extinction. Neo tries to call this bluff, but the Architect tells him that the machines are prepared to survive without humanity. He tells him that the One has chosen to sacrifice everyone living in their Zion city and start over fresh with 23 new free people. After some sassy back and forth, Neo doesn't just exit through the door, he blasts through the door, Superman style, and he is gonna save his woman. The Matrix is bending around him as he desperately flies to get Trinity. But she's already been shot. But he manages to catch her before she hits the car, and that wasn't in his dream. He brings her to safety on the top of this one skyscraper, and he reaches inside of her body, inside her code, to scoop out the bullet. Morpheus is doing what he can to stabilize her in real-life body, but Trinity passes away.
Trinity.
He reaches inside of her body, inside her code, and restarts her heart. And her real-life body comes back to life. They manage to get outside of the Matrix, where Morpheus is confused. He doesn't understand why the war against the machines isn't over yet. And Neo tells them the horrible truth, that the prophecy was a lie, and the One is just another layer of control that the machines have over humanity. Right as Trinity is about to ask the million-dollar question of what the heck are they going to do about this, the proximity alarm goes off. There's a group of Sentinels, the same ones that destroyed Captain Soren's ship, and they are winding up the same way with the same bomb in hand. They toss the bomb at the Nebber, and the crew barely manages to escape, but the Nebuchadnezzar is destroyed. Team RIP Nebber is on foot, and they don't have the EMP to defend themselves. But Neo feels something different. He can feel the Sentinels the way that he can feel and see code inside of the Matrix. And as the Sentinels come over to destroy them, Neo is able to destroy them with mind lightning. Except the mind lightning then proceeds to put him into a coma. Luckily, a ship is there to pick them up. The captain of the ship tells them how they were going to set up this defense against the machines, and how somebody triggered an EMP, which downed 5 ships. And the machines wiped out everyone on these 5 ships. But there was a survivor, only one. Can you guess who it is? That's right, it's the Smippet. Apparently this guy's name is Bane, but we're going to continue calling him the Smippet because I enjoy it that way. The Smippet is also inside of a coma, right next to Neo. And then we cut to black, and it's on to the Matrix Revolution! This movie picks up immediately after the events of the second and is by far the most anime of the bunch. Aboard the Hammer, which is the ship and the crew that picked up Team RIP Nebuchadnezzar, they're looking for Captain Niobe and her crew. It's presumed that they were taken out like many of the other ships. Neo and Bane, aka Smippet, are still in a coma. Morpheus wants to search the Matrix for Neo because his brain scan, it has the same activity as somebody who is plugged into the Matrix. But when they scan the Matrix, they don't find anything. Link gets a call from Seraph, who wants Team Nebuchadnezzar to meet up with the Oracle as soon as possible. When Morpheus, Trinity, and Link end up going to the Oracle's place, though, it's kind of awkward on account of the prophecy being a lie and all that. She tells the crew about the Train Man, which is a program that ferries things from the source to the Matrix. Meanwhile, Neo wakes up in this sterile-looking train station where he meets a little girl called Sati. She's a program and she's here with her parents, and they're going to go on the train to get to the Matrix. But Sati says that Neo can't come with them because the Train Man won't let him. Her father, Ramachandra, explains that they are exiled programs and that they created Sati out of love, which is a very strange and very human thing for a program to say. Programs without purpose are deleted. So if they try to go in the Matrix the normal way, Sati will not survive. Ramachandra also tells Neo that the Train Man is working for the Frenchman, which, can you guess who that might be? That one Marrow guy from the last film. And while this is going on, Morpheus, Trinity, and Seraph have found their way to the train and actually find the Train Man himself, who's like this stereotype of a hobo, I guess. He manages to outrun them and he meets up with Ramachandra and Sati. Neo tries to get on the train and he tries to be intimidating, but down here, the train man is God, and the train leaves without him. Seraph wants to go back to the Oracle and see what she suggests that they do, but Trinity already knows what they have to do, and her way involves guns. Lots and lots of guns. In the mandatory sick techno beat sexy dance rave segment of this movie, all three of them go back to back and slowly make their way through the latex crowd and find the Marrow guy. The Marrow tells them to drop their weapons and then they can talk peacefully about getting Neo his freedom. And they actually do. And he actually seems to be wanting to make this deal. In exchange for Neo, Marrow says that he wants
The eyes of the Oracle.
the eyes of the Oracle, which is a super weird and cryptic thing to ask for, but will be cleared up later. Sort of. And since this is a difficult corner that the writers have written themselves into, Trinity says screw it, points a gun at Marrow, and tells him to see things her way. And after a little standoff where everybody's pointing guns at everybody, Marrow agrees, and Neo has his freedom. But Neo knows that he needs to go talk to the Oracle, like, now, because it's going to be his last chance to do so. And the Oracle actually explains a lot here. So the architect's plan to make Zion fall might not come true after all. He can't see the future because he doesn't understand choice. He's never understood the concept of choice at all. Neo was able to stop the machines in the real world thanks to his visit to the Source, aka the architect's room in the last movie. And while the Oracle doesn't know exactly what's going to happen to Zion, she does warn Neo that he's the only person capable of going up against Agent Smith at this point. Smith has only been increasing in power since the last time Neo encountered him, and the Oracle goes as far as to call him his opposite, saying it's the way for the system to try to balance itself out. She makes clear that the conflict between the two will come to a head tonight, and whatever happens in that fight will determine the fate of both the Matrix and the real world. Hey, will you look at that? Snippet woke up from his coma. We briefly see this as Neo is getting unplugged from the Matrix, and he says that he needs some time. Meanwhile, the Hammer's medic, Maggie, is going to prepare him to be interrogated, but there's no interrogation quite yet. We're back at the Oracle's place for now. Seraph is coming to the Oracle with bad news, but she already knows. She sends Sachi away with Seraph, but the two are cornered by a small swarm before they're able to get out, and it's presumed that they've been smithed. The Oracle puts up no resistance to Smith and his Smiths. He mocks her and her relationship with Sati, and mocks her for the concept of choice altogether, because either she didn't see this coming, or she did see this coming and did nothing to stop it. The Oracle calls him a bastard, he says, "You would know, Mom," and then he assimilate the Oracle. This has thus given Smith the eyes of the Oracle. He's able to have her ability to see the outcomes of all choices. Smith laughs maniacally as he is super satisfied with his new eyeballs. It's Smippet interrogation time. We see Bane/Smippet admitting that he doesn't know what happened, and he supposes that he was the one who sabotaged the defense and caused 5 ships and all of their crew to die, but he doesn't know why he would make a choice like that. Meanwhile, the crew has found the Logos, Captain Niobe's ship. She and a couple of other people on her crew survived. Before she left the Matrix, Niobe was able to visit the Oracle, who told her what she needed to hear. Meanwhile, in Zion, Commander Locke is preparing the defenses. The machines are coming, and they have to be ready. The Council is still holding on hope that the Nebuchadnezzar is going to do something, and they're not entirely willing to have every human being fighting on the front lines. And then we're introduced to the 2 groups that we're going to be focused on during the actual Battle of Zion. The first is Z, who is Link's wife and Tank and Dozer's sister, remember? She has volunteered to go to the front line and hold down the dock. And the second is our fanboy. He's called out by this guy, Captain Mifune, which we've seen in previous movies briefly, for being too young to volunteer. But because our fanboy has gumption, Captain Mifune allows it. The Logos gets a jump start, and the operators on both ships see that something is seriously wrong with the Matrix. The code is just wrong. Neo talks to the collective crew and tells them what he needs to do.
I have to take one of the ships. What? To go where? To the Machine City.
The captain of the Hammer is very adamantly against this. He views it as a suicide mission that's just a waste of a ship. But Captain Niobe flexes her status a little bit and says that he can use hers. She says that the Oracle told her that she would have the choice to help Neo or not, and she believes in him. Neo and Trinity talk. Neo says that he knows he has to go, but he doesn't think he's going to come back. Trinity tells him that she's ride or die, and even though they're both scared, they're happy that they're going to be together. Trinity and Neo say their goodbyes to Link, and more emotionally, Morpheus. And while all of this is happening, the medic, Maggie, is murdered by Snippet. The rest of the crew of the Hammer, including Morpheus and Captain Niobe, are going to be booking it to Zion as fast as possible so they could possibly aid in the defense of Zion. In order to do this, Captain Niobe suggests a crazy plan, which is going through the machine lines, which is impossible to pilot, but it's Jada Pinkett Smith. Of course she's going to pilot it well. As they start this trip back to Zion, however, they find that Maggie is dead, and they can't find Bane anywhere on the ship. They realize he's got to be on the Logos with Trinity and Neo, but they can't go back for them because it'll just be too late to get back to Zion in time. Smithbane, so Smith Puppet Bane, messes with the ship's functions a little bit, which lures Trinity out, and he gets the jump on her. Neo goes down to check on her, and Smithbane has her hostage, but he throws her aside to start fighting Neo. And then it's revealed that Bane is Smith given flesh. Wait, revealed? Whoops. Oh, I mean, surprise! The fight continues for a little bit, and Smithbane complains about being inside this fleshy sack, and then he blinds Neo with electric cables. Smithbane thinks he has this fight in the bag, but because of his connection to the Matrix, Neo can still see in a way. And now he can see Smith in his true form, looking like a fiery demon of some sort. Neo takes out Smithbane, destroys him, and Trinity is now in charge of driving. Between her and Niobe, shout out to the Matrix for showing these badass women drivers. Morpheus, Link, Niobe, and the rest of the crew of the Hammer are making their way slowly through this mechanical line in order to not be seen by Sentinels. Except naturally there's a small error that causes them to be seen by Sentinels. So now they're booking it through this twisty-turny hallway of death with a swarm of death behind them heading towards Zion. But because of the malfunction, they're not able to tell Zion that they're coming. So that's a problem because the gates to Zion are currently closed. The machines attack Zion with terrifying numbers, and the fight for humanity begins. And here's how it goes on the two fronts I mentioned earlier. On one front, we have Z, who has a new battle buddy named Chara, and together they are able to use a rocket launcher to blow off the leg of this digger, which is like one of the main threats to Zion because it's able to dig through their walls and leave them defenseless. The two are chased by Sentinels, and Z makes it out, but sadly, her battle friend Chara dies. R.I.P. The other front focuses on certified legend Captain Mifune, who leads the charge in this APU. Fanboy is sent out to reload the captain's suit, but there's a jam that occurs. Captain Mifune holds on for as long as he can, but he is slashed to bits by a swarm of Sentinels. His last words instruct Fanboy that he needs to take his suit and make sure the gates to Zion are open for the Hammer. Oh, and he only has like 2 minutes to do that. And with some help from Z, he does! And the Hammer seizes this opportunity. They fly directly into the fray of all these Sentinels, and they pop an EMP, and then all of the squiddies in the area drop. Z and Link are reunited. Hooray! Except, no hooray. That EMP was actually a huge problem because it also shut down all of Zion's defenses. And now, if Machine City was smart, they would send any and all remaining Sentinels to go to the sitting duck that is Zion, which is exactly what the machines are doing. So, no hoorays yet. Morpheus, Captain Niobe, and the Captain of the Hammer have to address the council and tell them what exactly is going on. And everybody is just kind of praying at this point that Neo is able to do something. Meanwhile, the Logos is almost at Machine City. Neo is able to destroy these bombs that are being lobbed at them in midair. But then there are too many of them and they get swarmed with Sentinels, so Trinity flies into an electrical storm to disable them all. For a brief moment, they fly above the clouds where there's a blue sky and a shining sun. The storm has also shorted the ship's engine, so the ship plummets down and Trinity is able to land it into the side of this machine building of sorts. So they've made it. With his Matrix eyes, Neo is able to see this brilliant light all around him, the life force of the robot, so to speak. But there's something wrong. Trinity has been impaled and is mortally wounded. Neo was able to bring her back last time, but it won't happen this time. She gives Neo one last kiss and says her goodbyes, and then dies in his arms. This is fine. That's fine. Actually, I can't hang. Neo manages to crawl his way to the central machine system, which is like a bunch of sentinels forming this giant baby face. He points out that Smith has gotten out of control, assimilating and spreading through the Matrix like a virus.
A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
My, how the turns have tabled. Neo says that he'll take care of Smith, but in return he wants peace. At Zion, the Sentinels have made it to the humans, but they stop. Their giant death swarm waits. The giant machine babyface agrees and jacks Neo directly in for a final confrontation. Neo goes into the Matrix where everything is dark and rainy. Every single person in the Matrix is now a Smith. The swarm watches and only watches as Neo approaches what is now the main Smith, the one with the eyes of the Oracle. And then these two titans fight. As they fight, Smith talks about the futility of human life and how their purpose in life is simply to die. He has seen the way that this fight ends, and he knows that he wins. He even asks Neo why he continues to fight knowing that he's going to lose.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
And Neo says it's because he chooses to. Smith realizes that this is the end. This is the last scene of their fight. He knows how it's going to play out, and he remembers what he's supposed to say, but something doesn't feel right about it. Smith is suddenly unsure. You can't see the future if you don't understand why a choice was made, and Smith has never understood choice, period. It's then that Neo realizes the way to finish Smith off once and for all, and he lets himself be assimilated. And then it's over. All hope is lost. But then at Neo's real-life body, this light shoots out of his eyes and his mouth. And that same light is blasting out of the Neo-Smith clone. And then the Neo-Smith clone explodes. And this same light appears in the eyes of every other Smith in the swarm. And they too follow suit and explode. And then Smith himself explodes in this brilliant light. The giant baby face says that it is done. And in the Matrix, in the place of that one main Smith, is the Oracle. The Sentinels at Zion's gate retreat. Remarkably, the machines have kept their end of the bargain. Morpheus has imagined this moment all of his life. And here it is. The war is, nope, Lawrence Fishburne, you are not allowed to cry, because if you cry, then I'm going to start crying, and nobody wants that. The machines take Neo's apparently lifeless body away to rest in reverence. But through the filter of Neo's Matrix eyes, we see that there's still a bright light where he is. The Matrix rebuilds itself, and everybody who is assimilated returns to their normal state. The last segment of the film is a conversation between the Oracle and the Architect.
Just how long do you think this peace is going to last?
As long as it can.
The Architect assures the Oracle that any human beings that want to leave the Matrix and live in the real world are welcome and free to do so. Seraph and Sati rejoin the Oracle, and they look on to this beautiful sunrise that Sati has made for Neo. The Oracle didn't know that all of this would happen, but she believed. And she believes that one day that they will see Neo again. They look on to this new, lush Matrix. And until the Matrix resurrections, that's the end. In general, I like the way that the original trilogy ended. I think that everything that came afterwards in terms of chronological plot is really unnecessary. But then again, I also haven't investigated The Matrix Online in great detail. And rather than going into the sequel poo-pooing on it for the sake of it, because it's a sequel and why did this movie get made? Instead of doing that, I'm going to go into this with the mindset that Everything that happens in the Matrix Resurrections and the Matrix Online happened in an alternate universe. So I can keep the original trilogy and its ending pure and sacred, while also having an open mind to whatever's coming next. How are you feeling about the Matrix Resurrections? If you've seen it, what did you think of it? Where should it fall in terms of being canon or not? I look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below, even if I don't agree with them. A big thank you to Connor for helping me out with this script. Thank you to Samir for editing this video. Until next time, my name is Kyrie, this is Flights of Fantasy, and something big is coming. Oh yes, it's coming. Real tears. I'm an actress now. The secret to realistic tears for all you wannabe actresses out there is just being a deeply sad person.